Brexit's slowdown has finally arrived. Is it fair to say that now, Jamie?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a slowdown induced by the movement in the exchange rate. It is squeezing real income growth. It's leaving less money spare for consumers to spend, and that's really behind the slowdown in GDP growth.
Jamie, net exports, also a major factor, came in much worse than forecast. Is this a harbinger of things to come now that Britain has turned isolationist?
Well, the thing to remember about the exports numbers is that they bounce around all over the place, so I would never place too much weight on one quarter's outturn. There's also a bit of stuff to do with some accounting funnies to do with gold, so I wouldn't worry about that.
It's not the only thing that bounces around, is it, within these GDP figures, to be fair, is it?
It's a bit like a barrel of eels. It's quite difficult to actually see what's moving on inside. So what I would say is that we know that that Brexit is going to have a long-term effect on exports and trade. We don't know what the impact is going to be in the short term. It's unlikely to be that pronounced.
But didn't one BOE member say we've got a sweet spot for a couple of years during the Brexit negotiations, while sterling is weak, while we're still within the EU trade deals? It should be a sweet spot for the...
Well, that's right. That's Ben Broadbent, he's Deputy Governor at the Bank of England, and I agree with him. The currency is low, but the consequences, the tariffs that are likely to be in place, they're not here yet. So you've got the benefit of the depreciation, but not the costs.
What happens during election season? Does that, boost GDP or make it contract in any way? Does it have any impact at all, given that we're probably going to have a pretty similar makeup after the election?
Well, I'm terribly sorry to disappoint, but it won't really make any difference to GDP growth in the UK. It's much more likely that people will carry on their normal lives and investment spending and consumption will continue as before.
Spending is key. Consumer spending weakened, household activity adding the least to the economy since 2014. We know the dynamics, weak pound, inflation up and wages aren't keeping pace. Is that the key dynamic?
That is. But I think what's kind of worth imagining for now, though, is what happens in 2019 if tariffs suddenly are put in place. This time, we've got a consumer slowdown. It's just the movement in the exchange rate that's driving that. Imagine you've got another movement in the exchange rate, which would be quite likely, and then you've got tariffs on top of it. You're looking at a much bigger squeeze on the consumer then. So really, it's I mean, that's not our central forecast. I think we're expecting things to be a bit smoother than that. But if Brexit turns ugly, then what we've got now is just a foretaste of what's to come.
Subdued for the rest of the year? Is that a fair guide as to what we can expect for the rest of 2017? Paint 2017, second, third, fourth quarters.
So, I mean, thankfully, I've got our fresh forecast in front of me. So, we're looking for 0.3 GDP growth in each quarter subsequent to this in 2017. That should see the overall year-on-year rate drop to about 1.5%. Last year, it was about 1.8. So we're seeing a bit of a slowdown, further slowdown in 2018 to 1.3%. So
hence, the BOE sits on its hands till BI says post-Brexit negotiations.
That's it, Mark.
Easy job for Mark Carney, even with inflation above target.
Just take a holiday for a while and no one's going to be too worried.